friends, welcome back to my channel. We're here today with a Friday Reads update. It is day 5 in November. I haven't finished anything yet this month. So I'm going to tell you about the 3 books that I finished since my last Friday Reads update, even though those were at the end of October. So just briefly, I finished Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I did a review on the channel. I love this book. I buddy read this and I love this way more than my buddy read partners did. But I thought the thematic exploration of crime and punishment versus suffering and what constitutes a crime, whether it has to be a legal crime or unethical behavior, I thought that was done really well. And I also really loved how the author gave us lots of different characters living their lives. And at one point, we're following a main character, but we veer off and see a little bit of their home life and some of the other things that they are dealing with and how that character and their life relates to the main crime at the center of the novel, and the discussion of just how these characters develop in their response to the crime. I loved it. I love this book. So check out my review if you want to hear how I finished Crime and Punishment and what I thought about it. I also finished The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen, and this is a Vietnamese novel, the novel of a Vietnamese immigrant / refugee living in the United States and the otherness that he feels. Again, love this. 5 stars for both of those. I love how the author gives each chapter, he gives 2 scenarios that are very similar, but gives us an opportunity to compare and contrast these 2 things. And sometimes it is the event that is happening to 2 different people. Sometimes it is 2 things that are seemingly unrelated, but there is some thematic comparison. And I just loved it. I thought that his treatment of themes in this book is brilliant. I felt like he really explored the otherness that people can feel, how people can be ostracized by a society, even the society that they're supposed to belong to. So he looks at what it means to leave your home country and to yearn to go back, even though you left under less than ideal circumstances. And he talks about the life of different people in America, the American immigrant and the American, quote unquote, American homogenous group, and what the American dream is like for people who live it, people who want to live it, and people outside who yearn for it. This was brilliant. I have so many notes in this book. I buddy read this with Patrice, and she was talking about how this book should be studied in school, and I would volunteer to teach this book. Not that I know everything about the book, not that I am the expert on Vietnamese history, because I am not. I just would love to participate in a discussion of that book. So check out The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen, and Patrice and I are planning to read the next in the author's collection, the author's oeuvre. The Confession, I think, is what that one is called. So aside from that, I listened to the audio of Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson, and I can't tell you too much about the novel because like I said, I listened to the audio, and that's not my preferred mode of reading a book. So I'm going to be rereading the print version hopefully this month, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it then. But you know, Jacqueline Woodson, she is a writer / poet, and her books are lyrical. They flow. The prose just flows. She's talking about the themes of life. She writes about contemporary and recent past, modern history. She writes about contemporary Black experiences, and in this book we are reading about teenage pregnancy and young mothers and how they pass on a legacy to their children. And we're looking at this event that kind of railroads a young woman's life, and we're looking at it from lots of different perspectives, and it was really, really beautiful, but I need to reread it. So those are the 3 books that I finished since my last Friday Reads, but I finished them at the end of October. So in November, I'm continuing the lesson by Cadwell Turnbull. I need to read that for the book club discussion, which is this Sunday, and I haven't finished it yet. I'm reading it on Kindle, so I'll tell you more about it when I do that. I'm also needing to read Land of Love and Drowning by Tiffany Unique. Both of those are the books for the book club discussion this Sunday, and I haven't read that one yet. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on later today. I wish I had read it so I could tell you about it, but those are the two books that are pressing, high priority right now. Aside from that, I started some really great books. Oh no, before we do that, aside from that, I'm still continuing Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, but I haven't read much of this week, and so I'll come back next time and tell you more about this. Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois is looking at mixing of people, Native American people who live in the Creek, that's in the south of the United States, as they're mixing with people of African descent, and also with Caucasians. They're white people in their family line. And so we're reading about this family at different points in their history. We're seeing how some of that interracial mixing happens, how people choose, or how they choose relationships, or how some of those choices are made for them. And they were kind of seeing a little bit of the ripples through their family, and we're following a main character living in more or less present day, and we're following her story a lot more closely. We're seeing some of the generational curses that are being exhibited in by other members of her family. I think this book is a really, really visual treatment of that interracial experience, but I guess I'm not far enough in yet to give you a full review of the book, so more on that later. Aside from that, this week I started Her Honor by Ladoris Hazard Cordell. I don't know, I'm looking down because I know her name really well. I have thought about it all throughout reading this book. I am 127 pages in. I'm not reading this as fast as I thought it would, because I thought memoir, it's going to be an easy read. It's a lot of details. So Ladoris Hazard Cordell is the first African American woman to serve as a judge in California, and she served on the Superior Court in California. But she served in lots of other assignments in a judicial role. So the book so far is not so much her life before these assignments. It's telling us about some of the cases that she has presided over, and giving us details about the law, and telling us about what motivated some of her decisions. And it's so intriguing. There's a lot about the law that I'm fascinated by. I have entertained the thought of maybe going to law school and doing a law degree, but man, she makes it sound like fun. Not just fun, like she makes it sound so interesting. The process of learning cases and learning why the little nuances are different and what makes something different. And I love that. And the page that I just read contains a reaction that she got from a litigant. And because she, a lot of her cases, a lot of her experience has been how do you say this? A lot of the cases that she has presided over, it seems, have been cases where there were no juries. The decisions were being made by her. And so she talks about why she chooses certain things. And the case that I just finished reading, she was talking about name changing and what that process is like, how people can change their names. And she was giving an example of when people change their gender, transgender people, and they want to also change the name that they identify, or the name with which they're identified in the world. And she was explaining how some of the choices that she makes for those cases, she usually puts them at the end of her docket, the end of her day, so that there are no spectators in the courtroom, or there are very few spectators, to give these trans people more privacy. And she chose to end the chapter with a letter that a litigant or former litigant wrote to her, and I loved it. It's a litigant who goes by the name Lisa, now a trans woman, who said she wrote this letter, and so the letter appears here, with her identifying information blocked out, and she talked about how she was just kind of blown away by how kind and concerned and sympathetic the judge comes off. And I thought it was beautiful that she shared this letter, and she said, some of the things that she saw the judge do for other cases, she didn't do it for her because she understands why the judge was being a little more vague. Okay, let me just read, because I feel like my explanation isn't doing it justice. She says, I watched you handle all the other name changes before mine, and at first thought that you granted them no matter what, until a pair of parents appeared who wanted to change the name of their little girl. You seemed concerned at the effect that this might have on the child's identity, and I was touched by the apparent concern that you had for their child as to the effect that this may have on her. This made quite an impression on me. To be honest, I was terrified that you would call me up and start the procedure as you had with all the others before me. State your name, please. To my delight, you did not. You simply asked me, you wish to change your name to Lisa? Correct? I can't express to you the relief I felt when you said that. To top it all off, you then had your assistant or clerk call me aside and ask me if I wished the records to be sealed. I had never even thought or heard of this for these cases. Again, I was pleased. I know that the standard response to comments like this is I'm just doing my job, and while you are doing much more than is required by your job. You are showing a great amount of concern for the well-being of those involved in the proceedings in your courtroom, whether they are present or not. It is people like you who maintain my faith in the human race. I love that she shared this letter because, it's one thing for you to kind of discuss your life and your experience and your career in a certain way in your memoir because it's your book, but when you have testimony like this, how could you not be amazed by this person and some of the choices that she makes? So I'm loving this book, and I thought I was going to read it faster. I'm not, but I'm enjoying the process. So that's my first book for nonfiction, November. Hopefully I'll be finished before my next Friday read, so I can tell you a little bit more about it. And then I started some candy. Tahira in Bloom by Farah Heron. This is a novel by a South Asian woman, and the book, it's one of those kind of pink books, and so far that's what it is. It's about a young woman who is determined to pursue a career as a fashion designer, and some of her plans get railroaded. Her parents have been pushing her dreams along, allowing her to choose what she wants, unlike some Asian parents, I guess, have been said to do. Her parents have accepted that she wants to be a fashion designer, and they've been finding ways to they've been finding ways to support her. Yeah, that's the word. They've been finding ways to support her. And one of those plans just fell through, and now she has to do something different. And I think in the book she's going to be migrating from Canada to the United States, to New York, fashion capital of the world. So it's a little bit of a discussion of that so far, and I'm not that far in, but I'm enjoying it because who doesn't like candy? So those are the books that I'm reading right now, and I will get back to you soon. So thank you so much for watching this video. I enjoy sharing my books with you, my reading life. Every time I say my reading life, I think about Heidi. I enjoy sharing my reading life here with you on the channel as well. I hope you enjoy these videos. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. We'll be back soon for another video. And until then, I'd love to chat with you in the comments down below. Let me know what you're reading, what you're loving, if you're participating in Nonfiction November or in Digathon, what you've been picking up so far. And let's chat. So until then, happy reading. Bye.